Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar, which is Preparing for Employment. I am Sandy Irwin. I'm Director of Family Supports here at St. Louis ARC. We're so glad that you are joining us tonight. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Taylor Hartman.
Thank you. And hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. As Sandy mentioned, my name is Taylor Hartman. I have been part of St. Louis ARC and our Employment Services Department for the past 10 years. I'm really excited to share with you tonight more about our services as a whole, kind of a broader, high level overview of some really specific and intricate pieces that come together in this puzzle. I hope that I will answer any questions that you have coming into this, and I hope that I will also guide you to the right next steps and connect you to where you want to be. So without further ado, we'll look at St. Louis ARC's employment services and our mission within our program. We want to empower people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to gain skills for paid employment, and we have a program that does this through unpaid internships. So this is our pre-employment training program. And as we discuss more about our employment services as a whole and some of our programs, again, just bear in mind that pre-employment training is the program that builds skills through internships. We also support people through interviewing and applying for full or part-time employment, building and strengthening business relationships, as we look at that as that's the heart of what all we do. We are very relationship focused. We want to support the person first and foremost, but then a very close second is supporting that business partner to ensure that they can rely on us and they know what our services entail, and also so it can help the person supported. Employment Services provides the initial job coaching and long-term retention services to promote independence. Our main goal in any program under our Employment Services umbrella is independence. We want to support people to become as independent as possible. Many people will enter our services and our programs at varying skill levels, varying abilities, different places in their lives, whether this is preparing for your first job or your fourth job or your 40th job. We want to help prepare you the best way that we can, while ultimately gearing towards that independence. There's a few different ways that we can get started by learning more about employment services. Firstly, you can reach out to the SE team by emailing seteam@slark.org. This will connect you directly to the the supported employment. That's what we say SE for. The supported employment team of managers. And so going this route connects you to the management team where we can better direct you for what you're looking for. Again, we've got several programs under our umbrella of services. So if you would like more information or a clear connection, you can reach out to seteam@slark.org. That way we can help connect you to where you're looking to be, and what program or service you're looking to hear more of. You can also reach out to your transition or your family navigator. If you're meeting with April or if you've communicated with her, you can reach out to her, share your interests, whether that's pre-employment training, whether that's finding a job, whether that is switching jobs, or maybe you've already had a job and been employed, but you're wanting to seek long-term retention to help you maintain that employment. Reach out to your navigator, and they are able to kind of screen that call, screen that information, see what you're looking for, and then better connect you to a manager within the SE team, to help you find where you need to be. A few other options of ways to get started. There's vocational rehabilitation. That is a state agency that receives state funding, and funds the majority of the programs that we'll discuss today. And I'll show you that in a few slides. We'll get a visual of what all VR for short, what all VR funds. And again, it's the majority of our services, but not all. And so a common misconception is that we need to start with vocational rehabilitation. And while that is an option, we do not have to. Okay, so I'll rephrase this also. If you have already connected with your vocational rehabilitation counselor, that's great. You're ahead of the game. You're already there. You can discuss this with your VR counselor, which steps you need to go forward with, what programs you're looking for, how to get connected to those programs. If you've not yet connected to VR and you want to learn more about paid employment, again, VR or vocational rehabilitation funds the process of obtaining paid employment. So if you know that that is your goal of obtaining paid employment, you can connect to vocational rehabilitation and they will guide you. They will tell you about the other participating agencies in the St. Louis area, and allow you to connect with agencies to learn more about their services. As with DMH, I put the acronym here just for space within my PowerPoint. DMH stands for the Department of Mental Health, and it's also known as Regional Office. So if you are currently working with a DMH case manager, and you have an upcoming ISP meeting and you want to relay, I would strongly encourage you relay your interest of employment if that's relevant for you. So if you want to relay your interest in employment, your DMH case worker will be able to connect you to options to navigate employment services. I share all of this because we want to encourage you to look into all of the agencies and services provided. St. Louis ARC provides employment services, but we are not the only agency in the area, and each program, each agency receives different funding. And so we want you to do your research and looking into other agencies and all the agencies to learn what programs and services are offered, as with ours. So then you can come to the conclusion and decide which program aligns with your goals and where you're at currently. So please feel free to look into and gather information from us, but then also looking into the other agencies providing services nearby and seeing what all those programs are about. Here is some information on the local vocational rehabilitation offices in case you want to connect with the one nearest you. So looking at where you live, you'll want to find the one that's closest to your area. We've got a St. Charles VR office. There's one office for all of St. Charles County. There's St. Louis Downtown, which is for all of St. Louis City. We've got St. Louis North, which is for all of North County. St. Louis South, which is for all of South County. And St. Louis West, which is for all of West County. It's actually located about a minute away from Warson, our Warson ARC office. So find the nearest one to you if you are wanting to seek VR options. And again, that is an option to you. If you are wanting to seek paid employment, you're wanting to get an assessment through discovery and exploration and see how ready we are, then we want to connect to VR. Now, I know some of this, I'm kind of jumping ahead. I'll get to what those services are in just a second, but I wanted to share with you this contact information in case you wish to connect to your local VR. Here is a very, very broad overview of our employment services. Now, I want to preface that as with anything in life, it's not always a clear roadmap. It's not always a clear destination of start to finish, and we get there on our journey really clearly. We embrace the journey in the meantime, and anyone who's seeking services, we can start at any of these points. So please understand that this is, again, a journey, but for me to be able to share with you more information, I thought it would be helpful to kind of look at the trajectory of which we want to go. And so if we're starting out, we've never had a job before, or we're wanting to build up our work skills and our skills that would be necessary for employment, we might look into pre-employment training, which, as I mentioned before, this is unpaid internships that we seek out to develop and build skills. And this is all to, again, build up our work skills, build up our social skills that we would need in order to become hired. So if we are graduating high school and we know that we've got skills to brush up on because we have not yet had a job, pre-employment training is a great place to start. Also, it could be for someone who maybe we've had a job and we held that job for about 3 months, and then we found another job and held that one for about 3 months. And we can't really seem to find a job and maintain it for a long time. There might be some skills that we can work on there. So that's also a good place for someone to start in pre-employment training. You'll see in parentheses, pre-employment training is funded by the Productive Living Board. And so I just share that as just for us to know that is the one service that I'll talk about today that is not funded by vocational rehabilitation. The Productive Living Board, or PLB, is a Senate Bill 40 board. So that is a different funding stream. And again, nothing too pertinent to know about that. I just wanted to share. So in case you are wondering who funds what or where the funding comes from, pre-employment training is not funded by VR. And so when you have interest in pre-employment training, you reach out to agencies directly. So St. Louis ARC provides pre-employment training, and again, other local agencies do as well. So when you're doing your research, you call and see if you can get more information about the pre-employment or adult employment training. Sometimes other agencies call it adult employment training. You seek more information about that. You do not have to go to VR prior. Okay. Now, I'll switch gears for a second. We can, if we are starting out, again, if we're starting out our services, same examples. We're 18, just graduated high school, and we've not yet had a job. We absolutely can start at VR, and we can seek out discovery and exploration. Through this process, we are working with a VR counselor who will guide us in connecting to an agency and guide us through the discovery and exploration process. And so essentially, the summary of what that entails is we're working with an agency and we're exploring different areas of interest while someone is assessing our skill set, seeing what area we're proficient in our skills, seeing what area we need to improve upon some of those skills. So through discovery and exploration, we're given a thorough assessment of our work readiness and of our skill set, and again, any areas that we would need to improve upon. We utilize different tools. Lots of agencies also utilize a tool called the Work Readiness Inventory, and I believe that will be shared with you after this call by Brianne. But there's various different tools throughout both programs, pre-employment training and discovery and exploration, that staff will use to assess a person's readiness. Again, we want to be brutally honest about where a person's progress is at before we move forward to any next step, and to see what foundation we're still needing to build upon. Another part in this journey is job development and placement. This is funded by vocational rehabilitation. So if we've connected to Voc Rehab for short, or VR for short, and we are working with a vocational rehabilitation counselor and we're moving forward with job development, then that means that we are working with the staff to who has already assessed our readiness. They feel that we are ready to obtain paid employment. There's various different parts of this process, but through job development, we build resumes, we look at work history, we do a lot of interview prep, and then we will also seek out work opportunities. So we'll do the research of what openings are nearby or what openings are available that our skill set would align us for. And so that is through support of a career consultant or a job developer. Again, St. Louis ARC provides this, as does other agencies, but they are, each agency for this process is funded by vocational rehabilitation. So again, for us to get to this point, we do need to be connected to vocational rehabilitation so we can receive that funding. Now, next, once we've completed job development and we've been placed in a paid opportunity, employment then begins, and we're able to receive coaching services, as you'll see, also funded by Voc Rehab. Coaching services is on-the-job support by a job coach or an employment specialist who will teach us all of the skills, whether hard skills of the job or social skills. They're going to help us to develop and continuously develop those skills that would help us to maintain that employment and to gain our independence. And so while a person is on the job providing again, on the job supports, they're considering how they need to fade out and to promote the person that supported to become more and more independent. So independence is, again, at the forefront of our mind, and we are thinking of our fading plan from day one. So by the time that we get to coaching services, we do need to be pretty well independent in our skill set because coaching services is limited. The funding for this is only a limited amount of time, and coaching services can't be forever. So we've got to have certain skills already built up and built upon. We've got to have a foundation of that to where once coaching services begins and employment begins, that we can again be expounding on those skills, but that staff can gradually fade out to where the person supported is more independent. Ultimately, the main goal for all of our services is for a person to be paid in a paid employment opportunity and to be in what we call retention services. And I apologize, this is an error on my part. Retention services is not funded by VR. I apologize that I didn't catch that, but I will catch that moving forward. Retention services is funded by the Productive Living Board as well. But to get to retention services, a lot of time, again, we go through the other part of the process through VR. What we mean by retention services is it is a ongoing support to maintain employment for the longevity of the job. So once we are hired on at a job and we're receiving coaching services to really remain stable, and those coaching services start to fade and that job coach is there maybe one day a week helping provide support, or it might even be 1 hour a week. It's all based on percentages. So we go through that process to see how we can fade out. Once we're there a minimal amount of time, we've moved into retention services to where our focus now is to maintain that independence. We want to maintain success on the job. And so we will implement different support strategies and natural supports that will promote that independence, but without our presence. So again, looking at this visual, knowing that by the time we've reached the destination, so to speak, of retention services, we are very independent at our job, and our support staff is checking in. It's more of a check-in or a checkup to see how we're doing, to communicate with employers, to make sure that we're on the right track, to see if there's anything that we need to, improve, if there's any concerns or anything like that. But again, the focus is maintaining independence for the longevity of the job. And again, I apologize for that mistake. Another way to look at how we can begin the process, you want to choose your provider. So again, I can't encourage you enough to research, and don't feel bad about that. Research all sorts of programs around the area and all the agencies that provide different programs. St. Louis Arc wants to help as many people as we possibly can. But that being said, find the right program that's structured in the way that you're looking for and the way that will work well for you. Throughout that process, you'll gather information, and you do want to be mindful that a lot of programs do have wait lists. So that's another important part of choosing your provider and looking into the different program offerings. St. Louis Arc has had a consistent wait list for our pre-employment program for a while. Our development and discovery and exploration team also had a wait list for a while as well. So being in contact with those program coordinators to see what the wait list looks like. And then again, you can compare that, or you can consider that when looking and researching all of the programs offered. Next up, you'll have your intake meeting. And so through this process, it's important that we're able to learn more about the person that we're supporting, and that we're getting an honest feedback and insight into what our work history and our job interests look like. If we've had a job already and it didn't go successfully, that's okay. Please know that St. Louis Arc staff, we know life happens and there's all sorts of things that'll come up on our journey. That being said, we've got to know those details so we can best support someone. So we'll look over the program expectations, again, outlining and making sure that this is the right program to meet your goals and to make sure that you're eligible for our program. We'll look at job interest and work history. We will also discuss strengths, abilities, areas that we know we need to improve upon, or skill sets we haven't developed yet. We'll outline scheduling and transportation needs. We are not able to provide transportation in our program, so we want to help support you to have your transportation set up. And whatever that looks like, we can help connect to resources and we can provide more guidance and choosing your transportation option, but just knowing that we're unable to provide it. We'll look at your desired hours and wage. Are we looking for full-time employment? Are we looking for part-time employment? Is it a certain amount of hours per week because of benefits? Please share that information with us or whomever you're meeting with. And also, though, we will connect you with a benefit specialist so we can make sure to know what would interfere or what might not interfere with receiving your benefits. We want to make sure that you're in a great position there. And so we connect with our benefit specialist to make sure and figure out those numbers. After the intake meeting, which is the essential, window into our program, there's different terminology that you'll hear. So to explain this broadly, you'll hear assessment, discovery and exploration, and job development. Assessment is referred to for pre-employment training. Okay, so if you're seeking out the pre-employment training program, you will hear this phase of the process, you'll hear it called assessment. If you're moving forward with the VR process and you're starting out with either discovery and exploration, which sometimes VR counselors refer to as D and E, we love our acronyms in this field. So if you hear a VR counselor mention D&E, it's short for discovery and exploration. Or if you're seeking out job development, also funded through VR, this phase, there's a lot of similarities, regardless if we're going the VR route or if we're going pre-employment. We're again going to be working with staff to look more in depth on our skill set, meaning things and skills that we do really well, strengths of ours, but we also, again, want to look into those areas that we're not so confident in, not so proficient, and we want to have that honesty. So we're not looking or moving forward toward a job that would require certain skills that maybe we know we're not proficient in. If someone knows that they're not proficient in math, and that's probably not going to be an area of interest, we don't want to move forward with a job opportunity that might require cash register, or that might require checking out dates if we know, again, that we're not proficient in looking at numbers. So having that open and honest conversation, that way your support staff can get to know you and your skill level the best that we possibly can. Also, again, regardless of program, through this phase, we're going to look at your support network, meaning what kind of contacts are within your reach, what kind of opportunities are available and close to you that also align with your interest. So we'll support your support network. We'll do our business research and look at work opportunities. Now, again, if it's pre-employment, we're looking for unpaid, but still we're seeking internship opportunities that would align with your interest. Okay, so throughout this time, we're looking into developing our business partner relationships, finding opportunities to build upon those skills, whether it's work or whether it's unpaid internship. Also through this phase, we're looking at goal planning. The way that we're able to track our progress and to see where we're at is to outline goals. And so we will do that and start planning that process at this phase where we're starting to think of what our goals will be. And it's more than just the main goal of having a job. We're going to break that down specific to what that particular site would look like and what our particular skill set is. So we go through the goal planning process. We also provide, again, resume creation and building through this time and interview prep. In either of those programs, you will be receiving training in those areas where we're working on our resume, putting together as much experience as we can to prepare you for future, and then also preparing our interview process, learning what professionalism is, learning how to be professional and what's expected of us on a job. We go in depth on how to prepare ourselves and put our best face forward when we're going for a job interview. And we do lots of practice interview questionings to help us to be as confident as possible. More along the process, the next part of our umbrella, as mentioned before, would be our coaching services. So once we have assessed our interest, we've built up our skill set, we are moving towards employment, and now we've obtained a job. Okay, once paid employment begins, we are again in the coaching services part of this, funded by VR, and our staff, we communicate with employers to make sure that we are learning all of the skills and tasks that are necessary for paid employment and to maintain our job. So the support staff that are part of this picture are constantly communicating with employers to make sure that we're training and we're learning everything that we need to. The support staff will develop natural supports. And what we mean by that is a person or a thing within the environment that will help promote that success. So again, as mentioned before, we start thinking of fading, meaning how do we remove ourselves to help the person supported to be as independent as possible? One of our strategies is utilizing natural supports. So whether that's helping a person to become more reliant on their task list, or the clock that's in their business so they can be bound by time and they're able to manage what their tasks are based on the time, or whether that's another coworker within the business that we're able to bridge a relationship with a coworker to where that person that we're supporting is able to go to the coworker for questions and help as needed. Again, that reduce our presence and reduces the need for our presence and in turn promotes that person's independence. Throughout this part of the process, we go back to that goal planning piece and we create our individualized support plan. So very similar to an IEP that a person has in high school. In the adult world, we call it an ISP. And so this is primarily focused on our work skills and our work goals. We have a holistic approach as we do throughout employment. So we're going to look at transportation and living situations and arrangements and other things outside of employment that very much have an impact on employment. But primarily your ISP will have goals towards maintaining your success in your employment position. And through this process, we develop the ISP in coordination with the person that we support and the employer's input. So we know that we're meeting the expectation of the employer. Throughout our time in coaching, as we fade out, meaning that support staff will not be there 100% of the time, we'll fade from 100% to 90% to 80% to 70 to 60 and so on. Once we see that the person is gradually increasing their independence, we are removing ourselves because that's our primary goal. We want to be needed less, so people supported are more independent. When we move into the retention phase, that is often funded by the Productive Living Board or the Department of Mental Health, our focus in retention is the longevity of the job. So we're able to support someone for the longevity of their job, continual support. So it's not that we have helped you to obtain a job and then we have to exit and it's good luck. We want to be able to help you long term. It's just that we can't help you at 100% of the time for that long. That's our funding structure doesn't allow that. But our primary focus is to help someone to maintain employment for a long time or for as long as that person wants to be employed. Through this phase, we have constant and continued communication with the business partner to, again, make sure that we're meeting expectations, to see if there's additional responsibilities or other tasks that could be added on and how we can teach through that. We can step back in if all of a sudden systems changed and we're struggling with a certain piece. We can again step back in and provide more support. We want to be able to maintain employment. So the best way to remember retention is that maintenance. We want to help maintain employment. Just because someone's successful, we don't want to remove ourselves because what if something came up in the future? So the other thing with retention is we're that safety net to where as a concern comes up or as a life change comes up or something that has caused us to need a little bit more support, we're able to still be there. Throughout this process, we evaluate our goals. So we're looking at our ISP, and that's an annual support plan. So each year we'll evaluate, are those goals still relevant? Are there new goals we need to work on? Were we given more responsibilities that we need to adjust our ISP? And what strategies are in place? How are we able to complete those goals and those tasks? So we outline the strategies that we need for that. Again, the main goal in this piece is to foster that independence. As much as we want to help and everybody, within this team, we're part of this team because we want to help others, we've got to know that we have to foster independence. And we have to help someone to be as independent as possible. The last phase of this process, so to speak, would be our ongoing career planning. So that means that when we have supported you in obtaining employment and you have now been employed for a year or 5 years or 10 years, we continue that career planning process. No one needs to be at their job forever. Unless they want to be. We don't look at this like a marriage that we're married to one job forever. We can have different experiences in employment. And so we do encourage someone to maintain employment for at least a year. But after that, we're going to reflect. We're going to look at, are we happy with this? Are we wanting to grow and have advancement and have other opportunities or have additional responsibilities? Or maybe we're wanting to switch fields. We're wanting to look into a different line of work, a different type of job, and we can transfer our skills. So we're going to reflect throughout that process while valuing advancement and promotion. So whether there's more opportunity within your job and within your business, but in maybe a different role, or if you're saying you want a new job, you want to try something new, well, we support your advocacy and we want to look at how you can transfer the skills that you have into other workplaces. How can we transfer those skills into a different line of work or into a different business? Again, our approach is always holistic support. So we know that employment is one piece of the puzzle, but we also know that your living arrangement, your social life, your transportation options, all sorts of things. There's all these other pieces that are part of the puzzle. And so if that has changed and now you have new goals, and that might change where you want to work. Maybe you've moved and now that place of business that you were working at is 35 minutes away and it's not conducive. We want to continue that career planning process. We do not want you to feel that once you've found a job, that's kind of it, or you're, in a position where there's not growth, because there is. For everyone, there's more growth and advancement opportunities and more opportunities that we can look at other employment options. We also want to look at ultimately, what is your vision for a good life? The people that we support, you're driving this car. You are able to advocate and tell us what your goals are, what kind of jobs you want to have, and what kind of jobs you don't. So again, throughout that career planning process, that ongoing cycle, if things change and you have outlined a different goal for your good life, you share that, you advocate that with us, and then we will walk through that planning process of how we can better help you to reach that goal.